Hey, for all of you who are wondering what this is all about, I've been writing a young adult's novel because being stuck in bed is not as much fun as it might sound at first. So, my dad's also disabled and he has a hard time reading all the chapters. So, I'm going to be reading these out loud as they're coming out, so some of them might not make sense, but I hope you enjoy. Feel free to ignore or listen as you will, but it's mostly just for my dad. But you're welcome to enjoy as well. The beginning. If we were really witches, why can't we just fly? Clement was not happy about what her mother had assured her would be an adventure. She did not see adventure in state after state rolling past her window in corn, plains, and flat, long blue skies. To punish her mother, she had created a game of seeing how many states she could go without speaking to her. This was the first time she had said anything since Idaho. Her mother looked at her from under her sunglasses. She speaks. Even my tarot couldn't have predicted that. She waited for Clement to speak again, her knuckles turning pale on the wheel. I only know how to do so many things, but the second you learn that flying thing, please teach me. Clement found a particularly fascinating piece of skin on her thumb. She swooped in on it like an owl, gnawing until dots of blood could be seen. I still don't think we should have had to move. Her mother's body became stiff, with every bit of her energy focused away from Clement's words and onto the road. It was only a little thing. No one got hurt. She could remember Tom's face when he had stood back up. Well, not really hurt. It's a new start for both of us. Her mother squeezed her knee. A smile started thin and uncertain, dying quickly at Clement's expression. We only have another state and a half for you to be silent in. Make the most of it. Clement glared at her. I told you to stay out of my head. Then don't think so loud. Her mother turned on the radio full blast, and as usual, her mother's favorite song just happened to be playing. What are the chances? Her mother's voice carried out the window and over the fields. There was nothing left to do but read the book her mother had given her, The Grimoire for the Young and Respectable Lady Witch. The house was perfect, miles away from anyone, and haunted. Her mother had promised. All sorts of ghosts, all sorts of ages. Surely she would find some friends for the summer. Someone who might have been even more angry about being here than she was. Her mother gave her newspaper clippings of all the unsavory incidences that the house had been staged for, from kidnappings to drownings to deaths. That could be anything from suicides to murders. They were dead. Clement felt dead inside. They already had things in common. Can I have a pet? You don't need to ask me. Not a familiar. A pet. A regular cat who hunts mice and stuff. Bastet hunts mice? Bastet stretched and exited the car, looking over the house with quiet feline approval. You know what I mean. Bastet stepped on Clement's foot, staring directly in her eyes while she slowly licked her paws clean. Her mother shrugged. Maybe a frog? Her mother smiled, picking up Bastet and walking to the house. That's not funny. You're right. It's hilarious. Last one has to make dinner. Boil, boil, toil and trouble. We don't even have a cauldron anymore. True. Never enough space for it. We should get one here. I mean, just for appearance's sake. You're such a nerd. A nerd who loves you. Her mom wrapped her arms around Clement, who let herself enjoy it for exactly 5 seconds. Clement's bedroom was at the top of the north stairs over her mother's room and under her mother's workroom. No matter where they had lived, the workroom was the place she had a standing invitation to. Come and learn the parts of witchcraft that bored her the most. She never came. She preferred her own try-and-see approach, but to be fair, this is why they had to move away for a while, after the biology class mishap. Clement had only meant to reanimate her own frog. She had no idea how all of them had gotten up from their trays and began hopping. Her teacher knew it was her. Who else could it possibly be? Poor Tom had fainted dead away, turning green and pale. No one else appreciated the irony. He got a bump on his head from the table, but what could anyone do? To say Clement was weird and strange was one thing, but to be able to reanimate a class full of dead frogs, that would be saying she was a witch. And there hadn't been real witches for hundreds of years. Instead, the principal and a very nervous counselor recommended homeschool, or a long trip, at least for the rest of the school year. She didn't mind, not really. High school had been amusing, but she hadn't made any real friends. Her mother said she was ridiculous. Clement was always invited to slumber parties. It just showed how grown-ups, even witch grown-ups, never knew the right questions to ask. Every slumber party, girls who wouldn't speak to her for anything would suddenly sidle up to her at lunch. They stopped asking for thermos-contained potions. The girls even stopped asking about her birthmark, the one on her wrist that she tried to cover with long sleeves. It was shaped in a way that it should never have been considered an accident in biology. It looked like it should be something. But no amount of half-hearted searching in her mother's books had led her to an answer. There was also the small matter that it changed color. Nothing brilliant or rainbow, just darker and lighter shades of freckle. There was no end to the speculation from those in her class as to what it meant, or who she had made a deal with. But when the sleepover was scheduled, all was forgotten and peaceful for a few days. Torture was teasing. She must have just misunderstood. They wanted her for the Ouija board and for games to find out who liked who. Idiots. They had no idea about real magic. But Clement did. And she found ways to amuse herself at the parties. She told the most popular girl in school that she couldn't see anyone for her in the future. She made sure she looked at Chelsea with big, sorry eyes, a little wet just to sell it. The way Chelsea went on about it, you would just know that alone was her least favorite thing. But then that was Clement's point. Chelsea's mother even made an ill-advised phone call to her own mother. It ended with a threat about turning her and her pea-brained daughter into toads. She had never liked her mother so much as in that moment. Now here she was, in a haunted house, with an entire horizon between her and the next home, completely alone. She grabbed a book on herbology from her mother's box of books and headed out to explore, her head down to avoid seeing her mom smile. She would be entirely too pleased about her magical studies. Hours later, inside a room made by an obliging window. Oops. Let me start that one again. Clement sat, hours later, inside a room made by an obliging willow. She sat making faces out of leaves, animating dead bumblebees who made slow, confused circles before falling back to the ground, and occasionally reading under her half-closed eyes. It was going to be a very long few months. Clement spent the first few days reading the articles her mother gave her and trying to search the house for ghosts or fairies. But the ghosts were the ones who answered first. It started out simple and not too scary, but that wasn't the intention. Certain things were tried to see what would frighten Clement the most. Small things, fingernail scratches and light knocks on the door, almost a hello. Her shoes would appear on the other side of her room, and then later would venture to the icebox. And once, in a fit of what Clement could only call imagination, they were hanging by their laces outside her bedroom window on a strangled oak branch. Clement was biding her time. The new moon was coming, and she had a few questions. That, and she hadn't spoken to anyone but her mom for days. All right, that is the first chapter. I'm sorry I stumbled over a little bit of it. I hope you enjoyed. I'm desperately trying to find an editor for this book. I've only written and published short stories and children's books before, so this is so brand new for me. Please leave nice, kind, constructive criticism in the comments, and please feel free to share. I'm really excited about this book, and I feel like it could go somewhere if I get the help to organize it. All right, everyone, have a great week. Be kind, be gentle, be a badass.